Hey, thanks for being here. Can I ask you a quick favor? If you've been listening to the Brave OT podcast and haven't yet left a review or a rating or followed it, I sure would appreciate it if you would take a moment to go into your podcast app and click on follow or whatever it is on your platform. They're all a little bit different. And then scroll down and find the part that allows you to leave a comment or a rating. That would make a really big difference for me. The podcast platforms put these things out to people like you and put things out that people really like. And so a podcast that doesn't have any reviews or ratings is probably not very good in the algorithm's eyes. So I would really appreciate it if you do that. Really, it's about getting these supportive messages out to the people who need to hear them. So other brave OTs out there might not have found it yet, but you taking these small steps will make a really big difference. So, I have a podcast. You might know that I have a self published personal development planner that's available on Amazon. And some of the other things I do are run a private practice that's primarily focused on mental health. I have a clinical course called the Practical Act for OTs course. And my signature program is Activate Vitality, Rise and Live Fully. And that's about supporting OT business owners in thriving without the hustle. I delivered a short module this spring at the University of Alberta on entrepreneurship. I participate in a few other people's courses. I do a little bit of one-on-one coaching, though not a lot. So these are other sort of revenue streams that sort of show up in an other category on my spreadsheet. When I say this array of things that I do, I'm curious what your impression is. Some people might say, "Oh, wow, you are doing a lot. You're really busy." Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Some people might think that having multiple things going on equals success. Wow, she's really successful. Some people might think that is scattered and unfocused. What is she doing? That is an overwhelming business. I wouldn't want that business. That's running 5 businesses. And how can you do any of them effectively? My impression of all of those things is a little bit of each of those. It feels great to have some reach and some visibility within our profession and be known for my perspective on some things. That leads to some neat opportunities. I love that. My income is pretty good. Like, it's not like I'm making a ton of money here, but it is enough for me. I'm also married, and my husband has a full time income that's greater than mine. But where I do feel rich is in flexibility. I have the flexibility to work in ways that stimulate me, work in ways that are responsive and creative. I have the ability to niche down in some areas and be expansive in other areas and explore and collaborate and try new things. And I really like that. So, in this episode, I'm going to take you behind the scenes. I'm going to talk about money. I'm going to talk about time. I'm going to talk about other ways that my business rewards me and depletes me. It's a plus minus thing always. And I want to tell you all about it. So, stay tuned. You're listening to the Brave OT podcast with me, Carlin Neek. This podcast is all about empowering occupational therapists to step up, level up, blaze some trails, and maybe engage in a little conscious rebellion in service of our profession, our clients, our work, our businesses, and living our mission wholeheartedly. We are all about keeping it real, doing hard things, unhustling, being curious, exploring, growing through our challenges, and finding joy, fulfillment, and vitality as we do so. Really, we're OTing ourselves and each other. I hope you love this episode. This is brought to you by Jane, a clinic management software designed to help you provide great care to your clients. Choosing an EMR is a big decision, and one of the most important questions I asked myself, is the software right for me? Jane understands the importance of this question and wants to help you feel confident in your decision to switch. They've put together a whole range of resources to help guide you, including weekly everything you need to know about switching to Jane webinars, step-by-step online guides, and both live and recorded demos. It's all there to help you figure out if Jane is the right match before you make the move. When I was looking to switch EMRs from the last one I was using to a new one of the challenges I was encountering was that there was no smaller package for a small practice. And at that time, I wasn't seeing a lot of clients. And so I didn't want to be paying for a full system for a full practice. And Jane had an option for me. Plus, I was really impressed by all of the customer service I discovered each time I encountered someone within the organization. So, to learn more about Jane, head to jane.app, where you can book a demo or sign up if you're ready to get started. And don't forget to use my code VITALITY for a 1 month grace period on your new account. Some links in the show notes for you. So, as I shared in my intro, I offer a few different types of services or offers at this point. But before 2019, for about 10 years before that, my private practice was my only thing. I saw clients mostly in the community, mostly mental health, return to work stuff, and I loved it. It was a really good business. It could be as busy as I wanted it to be. But somewhere around that 8, 9, 10 year mark, I was tired of parts of it, the documentation, some of the third party challenges, those types of things, working within complex systems, and the administrative load. So I sat down to consider what needed to change. What did I want to hold on to? What did I want to do more of? What did I want to let go? And I explored some different ways of doing that. So, first, I hired a virtual assistant, and she helped me manage a lot of the administrative things. And that was really helpful. But I wanted to do something a little different and a little more. And she was really awesome. Her name's Christelle. And as she would listen to my dreams about, "Oh, what about this or what about that?" And she signed us up for a conference that had a lot of it had a lot of Boss Babe vibes, actually. There was some things I liked about it, some things I didn't love about it, but there was a really positive collective energy around female entrepreneurship and doing business as an entrepreneur, as a female, that is different than some traditional business advice. And through that process, I started getting inspired and listening to content about kind of scalable aspects of business and exploring what I wanted to offer. And I signed up with a coach at that point for a coaching program to help learn how to create an online course. I had the Activate Vitality planner in mind at that time and translated that into, oh, maybe it's the course, not the planner. And it was fun actually at the end of 2020 to make the planner to go with the course and then sell it publicly as well. At this point, after launching the planner about 5 years ago and having a couple new additions along the way, including a digital one, I have to say I'm glad I didn't put all my eggs in that basket. It's a really nice thing to have. It's a great resource to share as a workbook in my coaching program and in my private practice. It's a nice thing to give away. It gives a little bit more credibility than it probably deserves, and it does not make me much money. When I look at the numbers over the last few years, it's about 2% of my income in a year. And perhaps if I invested some extra money into marketing it and promoting it differently, it might do better, but it's not my main thing. I'm not letting it go at this point either. Here we are in August. It's a great time to buy a planner. So I will put a link to where you can check out the planner on my website and learn a little bit more about it. It really is about looking at how you're engaging in your life and what you're doing and checking in on whether that aligns with what's most important to you or is moving you forward in your goals, or checking in on what you need a little bit more as you reflect on the week or the last couple of weeks and then make plans with intention. It's more than about just making the plans, it's about building in more reflection. And it's called Activate Vitality because it uses a lot of acceptance and commitment therapy, as most of my things do. It's undated, so you can actually start it at any point, pause, pick up, and not waste any pages, which I really like about it too. So there's the planner and the Activate Vitality program. When I started exploring in 2019 and doing some research and learning about how to do that. And then in 2020, the pandemic created the perfect storm to really focus on leaning into that. My hope at that time was really to have Activate Vitality, the program, become my main thing, the thing that had some momentum that I could create a bit of a buzz around, And that after maybe a year or two of really doing a lot of audience building and promoting, maybe there would be some word of mouth momentum and it would take off and be easy to deliver, easy to sell thing. And it is easy to deliver because it is so aligned with how I think and how I support people. But it has not become an easy to generate interest sort of thing. It does represent about a third of my revenue in a year. And the delivery of it represents a really nice small proportion of my week. It's very rich and meaningful hours, but not a lot of hours. Where a lot of the time gets spent on Activate Vitality is helping people see what it is and trying to reach the people who really need it. So this program is all about supporting busy OT business owners in shaping their businesses to really fit their lives. Perhaps they've run away with them and have created this kind of monsters of this business that's overflowing and there are too many people on the wait list. And how are you going to manage that? A lot of OTs end up with these practices. And through Activate Vitality, we create that community around you that supports you in really checking in on what you need out of your business and making sure your business is serving you and your life and your priorities at any phase of life. And we're doing a lot of inner work on that because so often we're behaving unintentionally in our lives because of fear, doubt, worry of losing it all. I can't say no to a referral because I might never have one again. I have to take everybody, I have to help everybody who comes across my path. So we do a lot of inner work there. But there's also this whole big community of collaborative, creative, soulful, kind, gentle OT business owners. So when you've got a challenge or something that's like, oh, I need a solution for this thing takes me so much time, or I'm bogged down with this other thing, I'm not sure what to do. Inevitably, there's somebody on the call or in the group who can say, oh, you know what? Have you tried this? It made a really big difference. Or do you even have to do that? Maybe you don't need to do that. It's really only this that's required. And I so appreciate these discussions that happen among our Activate Vitality community members. So that's the nature of Activate Vitality. It represents about a third of my income, like I said. The delivery of it is certainly less than a third of my income, but the marketing of it feels like it takes twice the hours I have in a week. Trying to figure out how to help people understand it, trying to figure out how to improve my messaging. Why isn't it as wildly successful as it feels when you're in the program? As my clients tell me it is, as it feels to deliver it. All of those things feel really amazing. It just requires a lot of effort to promote. So that's where there's a bit of disproportionate time spent in a week. And a lot of it's in my own head. Let's be honest. What else do I do? What do I start? Maybe I need a lower price thing. Maybe I need a new lead magnet. Maybe I need to go back to webinars. I don't know. But those are the types of things I'm swirling around in. And it's a little bit stressful. So, in that vein of wanting to try some other things, last year I offered an ADHD ish OTs program. And it was meant to be for OTs who have or are starting businesses who have ADHD. Honestly, as I was heading down that route, my thought was that sort of engaging more with the ADHD community, I could support people in moving toward Activate Vitality because I would say most of us in Activate Vitality have ADHD or neurodivergent in other ways too, with all sorts of cool neurodivergent people in there. And in doing my market research on that sort of the year before, people were telling me, actually, I don't want a course. Like, I don't want modules to not do. I want some clarity on what to do and some space and a container and accountability to get it done. And so I thought I could create that. And I had about 5 people sign up, which was great. And in the end, the outcomes they got were excellent. Like, they all achieved some really cool goals, but it was actually really hard to get them to come to the meetings and participate and create community. That was really hard. And I was happy with the outcome of the program. I was happy with the income it generated, but found it not as satisfying to deliver because that community piece didn't come despite all the things I tried. So I actually didn't do that again. But what I did do was create the Practical Act for OTs course. So what took me there was thinking, okay, OTs are always looking for clinical education. We're always looking to level up our skills. And what's the clinical education that I could easily offer where I feel I've got a level of expertise that's a little bit unique? And so using acceptance and commitment therapy is something that comes really naturally to me, and really making that OT and helping OTs connect to that in our frameworks made a lot of sense. So I thought I'll create this practical act for OTs course. Maybe it's a divergence from the Activate Vitality program, but a second income stream that might be a little bit more connected to what OTs are looking for is probably a smart move. So I created that, and it's done really well. So at this point, it represents also about a third of my income, and I don't have to work very hard to sell it. This year, I launched it twice, and each time it did very well with just a couple weeks of posts. And I don't even think about it in between times. I've recorded it. So the first time I delivered it, and now I'm on my third go. But the first time I delivered it, that was more effort to do all of the recordings and set up all of the systems. But now that's done, so I host some calls to discuss and explore ACT with the OTs together and talk out individual challenges or populations or settings, and brainstorming and trying things out. I'm really enjoying that. So low delivery time, low marketing time, and representing about a third of my income. And the course is about a tenth of the price of the Activate Vitality program. What was really interesting to discover just a couple months ago, when I was looking at data, I try to make data informed decisions in my business, but sometimes we have to go looking for the data. And when I looked at the OTs who had joined the Activate Vitality program since last fall, a large proportion of them had participated in my Practical Act for OTs course. And I hadn't really designed that as one leading to the other. They both involve ACT, but one is to teach ACT as a skill, and the other uses ACT as part of building your own internal skills and awareness, so that within the context of this kind of coaching relationship and community, you can make intentional changes in your own life and business. And so I was really surprised to see that there was a lead from one to the other. Yes, there's a mention of Activate Vitality in the Act for OTs course, but really it's pretty token. It's not a big sales push. That kind of surprised me. So I've been a little bit more intentional about thinking about, okay, how do people find my things, and which actions lead people to choosing one of my products or my offers? And which marketing activities do I really enjoy? That's an important consideration as well. I really enjoy making the podcast. I really enjoy delivering the Act for OTs course. I really enjoy delivering the Activate Vitality program. I don't really enjoy trying to come up with another Facebook post or another lead magnet or another way of explaining why somebody needs any of the services I offer. So, with that knowledge, I sat down with my friendly marketing AI program and I asked it to talk through this with me. Here's what I'm learning the pathways are. Here's what I'm enjoying. Here's what's hard. And I came up with a bit of a game plan. I'm going to lean more fully into doing regular podcast episodes. So, right now, I just put out an episode, one or two a month, usually an interview with a guest who has come to me and said, "Hey, I'd love to be on your podcast." Sure, why not? Let's have a great conversation and put it out. But I have been a bit hesitant to put out a lot of solo episodes. So my intention is to put more short episodes like this out that share some things I've learned, some resources, some insights that I have to share, put those out a little bit more often. And that's also going to take up some of the time I spend in my week thinking about marketing. There's just a lot of moving pieces to creating a podcast episode. And so that takes up some time. I can outsource it, but at this point, I actually really enjoy podcast puttering. And so that's how I've framed it. I can replace several hours a week that I would otherwise spend trying to obsess about what's the next post I should do or what's the next way of attracting clients to my main thing. But if I put podcast puttering in that space, it gives me something to do that's really flexible, that's not super hard, that's enjoyable. I enjoy listening. I enjoy putting the pieces together and creating other bits to help people find the podcast. So that's my game plan right now. Focus a little bit more on the podcasting. Now, thinking about podcasting as a revenue stream, that is an interesting thing to conceptualize. So, in my mind, I think about the podcasting as a platform for creating identity, visibility, reaching people, having people get to know me and what I'm about. And really, that's marketing. And my thought was always that the podcast would be monetized by having people see my services because I'm here and I can share about the things that I offer. And it has certainly done that. But it was interesting when Jane approached me about sponsorship. And so my thinking was, okay, if I could have a bit of sponsorship that helps pay for support to produce the podcast, essentially having somebody else to do the nitty gritty work, that was my thinking initially, then it feels a little bit more sustainable. What I didn't expect with Jane was that I would get to be a part of a really cool community and really come to see what Jane is all about and the corporate culture and the way things are really collaborative among the staff, but also the community and the ambassadors and the connections I've made through those groups. So that's been a really fun, unexpected side effect of becoming a Jane ambassador and having Jane sponsorship on the podcast. So you could say my podcast is a little bit monetized through having a sponsor, but the main sort of revenue comes from people getting to know me and maybe being interested in my offers. So I've talked about the Activate Vitality program. I've talked about the Practical Act for OTs course. I've talked about trying out the ADHD-ish OTs program and not continuing with it. I've talked about the Activate Vitality planner. I could also expand a little bit more on my private practice and teaching roles. So, my private practice has continued as it began and it's evolved over time. I don't market my OT services. Clients find me usually through a Google search or a recommendation by a friend or colleague. I continue to get insurance-based return to work referrals, and I only take a small proportion of them at this point and just keep my practice pretty small. So I think I see about 4 clients a week at this point. Today, I'm going out to someone's house who's really overwhelmed with all of the crossovers and roles as a person who works from home. And having family members with some other diagnoses makes it a little bit extra challenging. And so we're going to try to figure some things out in her home to manage the overwhelm and maybe create some systems and flows to make things a bit more automatic in her home. So I'm excited about that. But I enjoy the variety that comes with people coming to me privately and also being able to do the return to work support in a selective way. I don't take all the referrals, so I can be a little bit picky about that. And that's a nice place to be. I also feel really secure in the fact that I could always take more clients in that practice if I needed a little bit more revenue, or I don't know, Facebook blew up and lose my podcast audience or something like that. There's always more OT work. So that is a nice sort of safety backup plan. I appreciate that. And then something that was neat that I can trace back to the podcast is teaching at the University of Alberta this year. The students invited me to be a keynote at their professional development conference, and that was really fun. And as I delivered the keynote, I talked about really how to approach their careers as emerging therapists in a way that is less likely to burn them out and ways to have sustainable, rewarding careers. And I think I kind of bombed that speech, to be honest. I had way too many pages. I was trying to read from them. My hands were shaking. It was in person. I had been doing so much online for years at that point. I realized at some point that, oh my gosh, I've got only 5 minutes left and I'm only halfway through my sheets. So I blew it, I think. But the faculty that was there, they reached out to me after and said, hey, we'd love you to teach something. What would you like to teach? Our students are really interested in alternative ways, non traditional ways of working. And so it would be great if you shared what you do. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool and a lot of latitude. And so I created a 13-hour module and I called it Expanding Possibility Through Entrepreneurship. So there was a heavier focus on how to identify needs, how to think like an entrepreneur, how to experiment, how to create a beta test and explore how to think through entrepreneurship using that scientific process of hypothesis, experimentation, review, revision, testing again, and going through this continuous development rather than, oh no, my first draft didn't take off. Therefore, this is a big failure. It's more of an iterative process and really teaching the OT students how to think in that way. That was really fun. And it was interesting that the students invited me to speak at the professional development day because they were fans of the podcast. And through speaking there that day, the faculty saw me and said, "Hey, you would be a good person to be able to teach that," even though I totally messed up the speech. And so it's fun to trace that back. Is my podcast monetized? A little bit, not a lot, but actually it leads to all of these different things. And it's been really interesting as I talk to people about my podcast. I've been to two conferences this year, the CAOT, Canadian OT conference in Edmonton, and the Australian OT conference in Adelaide. I really focused on talking about the podcast. I brought podcast stickers and I had a booth at the Canadian conference and just generating conversations with nothing to sell, but something that's free and let's connect about it. And I was really interested to find out that people were being assigned my podcast through university programs, not just OT programs, and that many more people were listening and feeling inspired and engaging in different things because of the podcast. And I never know that on this end. Here I sit in sort of a one-way relationship with you. I'm giving out information and I often don't know how it's landing. So I would love it, honestly, like this, like a little plug. Go join the Facebook group, the Brave OT podcast. Let's discuss because I would love to have more conversations. I want to know how this is reaching you and how this is connecting and how you're going and doing different things based on, or if maybe you totally disagree with something, I want to hear that too. Because I think there are so many different perspectives on things. And all I can share is what I've learned here, but I'm so open to other perspectives. So that's a little bit more about the podcast, a little bit more about the teaching. And then there's my private practice. So I think those are all of my buckets, all of the branches of my business tree called Balance Works OT. And who knows what the future holds? I have some visions, I have some ideas, I have some things I'd like to take a little bit more out to the mainstream. And what does that look like? I'm curious. I don't know what 5 years from now is going to be like, but I have some ideas. Please share with me how this lands for you. Send me a message, join the Facebook group, rate the podcast, whatever you do. I think I learned today on Spotify, you can actually make a comment on a podcast. That's kind of cool on an episode. I need to start watching for those. Nobody's ever left me a comment to date. I don't know if this is a new feature or what, but I would love it if you did. Now, having listened to the full story of all of the things that make up my business currently, now how would you categorize it? Now what do you think? Is that something you would want? Are you feeling like there's that framework of multiple income streams? It makes sense to not have all your eggs in one basket. And then there's the contradictory niche down to blow up. Smaller niche specific, do one thing, don't distract yourself with too many other things. What are your thoughts? I'm super curious. I'd love to leave you with a couple questions for contemplation on your own way of working. Which parts of your work or business energize you? And conversely, which ones drain you? Pay attention to those. There's always going to be parts of work that feel like work, but which ones really drain you? And which ones really lift you up? What have you always been doing on autopilot that seems to have momentum, but maybe you don't want to do anymore? Or maybe you want to do a little bit differently. What would it take to pause and adjust? Evolving our businesses to suit our needs is something I'm really passionate about, but I'd love for you to think about that. Sometimes getting off the treadmill of life helps us to pause and reflect, usually in nature, I find, with a bit of time away from work. How do you define success in your work? Is it revenue? Is it growth? Is the idea to always grow your business year after year? That's not success for me, but maybe it is for you, and that's okay. Or maybe that's a definition of success that's been impressed upon you as important, but you might stop and recognize that you need something different. To me, success is continuing to love Mondays, which I really do. Having the flexibility to do the things I want to do, to go out and garden in the middle of the day, or travel with my family, or have portable work. Those things make success for me, as well as the ability to create. I need creativity in my life. And that really lights me up. I need community in my life. I need to make a difference. I need connection. Those are all really important values of mine in my life and in my business. And so connecting with those is success for me. But also being able to make a reasonable income on that, being able to have enough money to not worry about money. That's always been an income target. There's always room for more, and we can do more cool stuff and make a difference in the world with a little bit more money. But I'm not pushing the envelope to scale financially as the main objective. What's success for you? So, if I can leave you with one thing, it's the idea that your business can evolve as you evolve, and there's no rule about staying in one lane. Make it work for you. If you need help seeing that, please reach out. That's what I'm here for. Now go share this episode with a couple OTs who really could use this message. As always, thanks for listening and be brave, OTs.